What's up everybody? Today I wanted to do a quick review of my Harbor Freight pneumatic brake bleeder. So the operation on this thing is pretty simple. It comes with two parts. This you simply fill up with brake fluid and you can put it in your master cylinder. There's a little valve to open it up, and then as you're bleeding your brakes, you don't have to continually check your master cylinder to make sure you know it's topped off. What happens is if you don't keep enough brake fluid in the master cylinder, then it sucks air into the lines and you basically have to start all over again. The second part of the kit is this, the bleeder. It simply hooks up to your air hose here. This end you will hook up to your brake caliper. As you can see, I've already broken off the tip, so we'll talk about that in the review. For the demonstration purposes, I'm going to be using my 2000 Chevy Silverado here. I've done a few videos on this truck. I did a lot of work on the engine and it's actually been running really well. One issue that I've had it since I bought this truck is the brakes have always felt really mushy. And I've tried, just about every single brake bleeding method that I could think of. And I recently bought an air compressor, so I decided to get this and give it a shot, see if it would do any better. So I started the truck up and I want to do a test here so we can see not only how dirty my floor mat is, but how far the brake pedal goes down to the floor. So you can see just standing, if I really want to push it, that's almost to the floor. If you pump it up a little bit, it gets a little firmer, but that's a lot more travel than I'd like to see. So after I use the brake bleeder, we'll test it again and see what it's looking like. The operation on this thing is pretty simple. So I'm going to fill this up and then you actually just turn it upside down and set it here in your master cylinder reservoir. Breaker. So the kit comes with these little stands. I don't know what you would call them, but you just screw it on the end here and that helps keep it in place in the reservoir. It has a few different sizes, so you just got to kind of play with it and test it, see which size will work for you. This one appeared to be the correct size for me. So the next step is going to be to connect this end on your brake bleeder, and it has a hose that goes around and then it attaches to this reservoir here, which I have attached to the air compressor. There's simply a trigger that you pull down and then I will crack open the brake bleeder. So I've gone ahead and I've bled the brake. So now I want to press the brake pedal again to kind of do that before and after test and see what it's looking like. Once again, this is the after. Maybe not a whole lot of difference. I think it's just a touch firmer. If I really want to press on it, I can press it as far as I want. So they're still mushy, but I don't know if that gives the full story of the brake bleeder itself. So as I mentioned, I've had these mushy brakes or whatever you want to call them since I bought this truck. And now that I've tried nearly every single method of, bleeding the brakes that I can think of and still have issues, I'm kind of thinking it's something else besides just, air in the brake lines. So the brake bleeder itself, to be honest, I actually really liked it. It was much easier, cleaner, and more efficient than about any other brake bleeder I've ever used. The one big caveat is that you do have to have an air compressor. I really like this master cylinder, filler, whatever you want to call it. In the past, I've always, been bleeding my brakes, give it a couple pumps, and then you have to come back and put more brake fluid in the master cylinder. This makes it a lot easier. The bleeder itself is actually nice because you can hook it up to the caliper, get everything ready, then you can go ahead and set the suction. You just pull that to set the suction. That locks it in place. And then while it's sucking, you can crack the bleeder open, and then shut it all while it's still sucking. So at no time is it not sucking. I think it's going to be your best bet for reducing the amount of air that gets in your calipers. As I mentioned, this tip did break off, which tells me that it's, pretty cheap. It's basically just a plastic piece that goes into this rubber tip and then a plastic piece that goes into this hose right here. However, what I ended up doing is this hose, it's pretty much like a surgical hose. It's pretty stretchy and it's pretty small to begin with. So I was able to actually just pop that directly onto the bleeder valve. It got a pretty good connection on there, honestly, and I would have no concerns about doing that in the future. Just, using that directly on there and just getting rid of this. So would I buy this thing again? Short answer, yes, I would. For the price, $35, you can't hardly beat it. Hopefully bleeding your brakes isn't something you're doing on a continual basis. Usually it's only done if you've done some kind of work on your brakes and you've introduced air into the lines. If you're just doing regular maintenance on your car, keeping up with things, it's not something you're going to be doing all that often. And so I wouldn't want to spend a whole lot more on a brake bleeder. So I think for the price and what it does, it's actually a pretty good product. I'm sure there's higher quality products out there than this, but you really got to ask yourself, how often are you going to be using it? Hopefully that gives you a little idea of, what this thing is, how to use it, and the quality of the product. If you have a better method for bleeding your brakes, go ahead and leave it in the comments section below. Maybe that'll help other people out. If this video was helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel by hitting my logo. And as always, remember to like and share the video. Thanks.